Welcome to the Takarazuka Revue fan podcast, the podcast for fans from all around the world. Today's just a small special episode, and I apologize. We've been trying for a couple of weeks to get everybody together to record some other episodes, and then we thought, oh yes, we'll do this one too. And we just have not been able to get everyone's schedule sorted, so you're stuck with just me today. So this is Jen in New York. And my second apology is because I know just the other day I turned around to my friend and I said, every single one of my podcasts, doesn't matter what it's about, has been about the coronavirus lately. And here we go with another coronavirus episode. But I also know that there have been a lot of questions floating around, and I thought it would be good to kind of get all of the information together and into English. And hopefully what I don't have to share, or the information that the other ladies from the podcast have given me to share, if you know anything else, or if you want to correct or change anything that I say, please do drop a note on our podcast blog. All right, so let's get talking. I wanted to talk a little bit about all the announcements that the Takarazuka Revue company has been putting out regarding changes around the coronavirus, and also kind of talk about some of the fan effects from the coronavirus. And I also wanted to pull in some of my own experiences from, I guess it was 11 years ago now, in 2009, when the H1N1 virus, which was a variant of influenza, was going through Japan. And it was also kind of a big scare. So back on February 21st, the company first put out an announcement for their customers where they just asked for people to follow, regular hygiene procedures. Please make sure you're coughing into your elbows. Just kind of a warning that all the theater staff are going to be wearing face masks. Letting people know that there'd be some antiseptic dispensers in the lobbies. And that they would be upping their cleaning routines, but also to let the audience members know that the actresses weren't going to be having any physical contact with the audiences. If you've ever seen a live Takarazuka show, sometimes, especially during reviews, they tend to do high fives or shaking hands with the audience members during some review shows. So none of that was going to be going on. And then a couple of days later, on the 27th, they put out an announcement that both the Takarazuka Theater and the Tokyo Theater would be closed from February 29th to March 8th, and that all of those performances had been canceled. So that was 2 shows in those main theaters, and there were also, I think there was a show, a dinner show for Todoroki Yu, I think, also got canceled. And the small theater show that Moon Troop was doing got canceled. And then on the 6th of this month, they announced that performances would be starting back up again. Unfortunately, what that meant was that, the Star Troop show started up just in time to close. They only opened up again for their final performance. So a lot of people lost out on seeing shows, which is unfortunate. Meantime, on the, I guess you would put it, the official, non-official side of things, the Takarazuka fan clubs that are not really officially recognized by the company, even though they do kind of coordinate with them. Layla tells me that a lot of ochakais were canceled, and that Irimachi and Damachi was either canceled, or if they were holding it, fans weren't really allowed to give anything directly to the actresses. They were being collected by staff. There are also a lot of other official things going on. I don't know if you heard about the school closings in Japan, but the Prime Minister Abe announced that he was going to be closing, or asking, all of the middle schools and high schools to close. Which threw people off a lot because March is basically graduation season in Japan. It's the end of the school year. So there were a lot of entrance exams going on, a lot of graduation ceremonies that either got canceled or rescheduled, which is, I cannot even imagine the chaos going on over there. And one of them, of course, was Takarazuka Music School, which did end up holding their graduation on the 2nd of March for the 106th class, I believe. But all of the actresses, or all of the students, ended up wearing masks, at least through the doorway. Before the ceremony started, usually the underclassmen give bouquets to the graduating class, and I guess they didn't hand them over directly this year. So a lot of little things that were changed just to help prevent the spread of disease. And then, just a few days ago, on the 6th, they released an update on what would be happening, following up on the theater closures that they'd had the week previously. And they did announce that the shows would be restarting. And there were going to be some other changes being made. And I think this is important for a lot of people to know, especially if you're planning to go to Japan to see a show, or if you live in Japan. They do request that if the following applies to you, that you please not attend the performance. If you're not feeling well, if you have a fever greater than 37.5 degrees Celsius, which is 99.5 degrees Fahrenheit for the Americans, or if you're showing any symptoms of a cold, like sneezing, runny nose, or other things that might cause audience members to be disturbed, or if you know that someone in your family, someone in your place of employment or school, or anyone around you in your neighborhood had the coronavirus. And lastly, if you've come to Japan from China, Korea, or certain provinces in Iran within the less than 2-week period that they usually recommend for the self-quarantine. And if any of those apply to you, between March 9th and March 26th, if you have to miss a show for any of those reasons, you will be able to request a ticket refund. And they said that more information is going to be posted to the website on how to do that. Other news, the restaurants and cafes within the theater complexes are going to stay closed. The usual things about cleaning, about staff wearing masks, no physical contact between the actresses and the audience. None of that has changed. They did mention that they aren't going to be renting out blankets to audience members. You have to bring your own. And the biggie is no tojitsuken, no same-day ticket sales within this March 9th to March 26th period, that you should definitely get your tickets purchased in advance from the website. And they also request that nobody be hanging around the theater doors, so I'm guessing that means that Irimachi and Damachi is going to be canceled for March. Also, something kind of funky sounding, it seems like they're having some sort of temperature scanner set up in the doorways of the theaters to check for people having a fever. I'm kind of like in my brain imagining like an airport security scanner, but I'm doubting it's anything that sophisticated, so I'm really curious to hear what all that is about, if anybody goes to see a show in March and would like to let us know. So, of course, something like this, an illness that is affecting thousands of people around the world is not something to be taken lightly. But I also really, really feel for anybody out there who had been planning a trip to Japan, because I know as Takarazuka fans, if you don't live in Japan, a lot of us plan these trips like 6 months to a year in advance, and you get your theater tickets, and you get your plane tickets, and you get your hotels or your friends' houses all lined up in a row. And then to have something like this happen just has to be devastating. I'm really sorry for anybody who's missing out on a trip that they've been planning for months. That's a horrible feeling, especially when you're a Takarazuka addict. So my heart goes out to you guys. The one thing that this keeps bringing back to me is 2009 was during one of the times that I was living in Japan for several years, and the H1N1 virus was going around, which was a strain of influenza. It was also called the swine flu, I think, in the States a lot, which was weird because it really didn't have anything to do with pigs. But it basically, the outbreak in Japan happened in like April and May, and it was in Kobe. And for those of you who know, Kobe is right near Takarazuka City. So there was a point where they closed the schools down in Hyogo Prefecture. And around that time, they also canceled Irimachi and Demachi. And Tsukigumi was doing Elizabeth at the time in the Grand Theater. And we were all like, oh boy, what's going to happen? And I remember I got sick that spring. And I ended up going to my local clinic. And like, there was panic going on at the time. And they wouldn't, like, you had to call when you got to the parking lot. And you had to stay in your car. And one of the nurses would come out with those like really painful long, like they're kind of like Q-tips, but they're like 7 inches long. And they like stick it up your nose. I feel like in one of those Egyptians, like in the embalming, where they stick the thing up the nose to pull the brain out. That's what it felt like. They're taking like the sample to test you. And I ended up just having a cold, which was good. But I will never forget that feeling of like, what the heck is going on? It was just very, very bizarre. I felt like it was an overreaction. But I lived much, much further north. We weren't near the epicenter in Kobe. But anyway, so I remember that year, after a week, things went back to normal, at least as far as Irimachi Demachi came back. They never closed the theaters. But then, probably about August, all of a sudden, every day on the Takarazuka website, on the news page, you'd read about so-and-so is out sick, so-and-so is out sick, so-and-so is out sick. And they actually said, I think the first couple, they didn't admit it. They used the phrase they use, which is like, they're feeling unwell or they're not in peak physical condition. But eventually they said, it's H1N1. And people would just be going out for like 3 or 4 days or a week, and then they'd be back. And it was just like, for 2 or 3 months, I think from like August through November, people were just out sick and back and out sick and back. And it was kind of crazy. We were all like, what is going on? So it definitely ended up hitting the actresses in a way that I don't think we've seen yet here, which is good. I'm hoping they can keep everybody safe. So that's really all that I have to ramble about. I apologize, I didn't really prep a script like I should have, but I wanted to get this out this weekend before I forgot again, and when I had the time. I know that the Chicago OG World of Dreams concert got canceled. Sakiko Flower apologizes, but she wanted to keep everybody safe, actresses and us. So she's hoping to reschedule it for June. It kind of sucks because I was really looking forward to seeing everybody in Chicago in March. I'm still going to be going to Chicago as of right now, so if anybody's there and wants to hang out, let me know. We'll meet up. Yeah. Everybody take care, be safe, wash your hands for 20 seconds, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Bye. Many thanks to Michael B. and the Arcanum String Quartet for their wonderful arrangement of Sumire no Hana Sakugoro. And thank you, listeners, for enjoying our podcast.